235 set. So that is the temperature that we want it to be, and that is the current temperature. The probe is just in air at the moment. The blower, because it sets the temperature of the probe, is lower than the temperature of the set temperature. So in here we've got a cheapo 12 volt power supply that powers the fan. Mains power comes in through this black cable into the chock block, then it splits off up this cable into the PID controller, and then the other cable goes into the power supply. The SSR, which is solid state relay, that comes off the PID controller, and that red light on the SSR and that red light there, they light when the output is switched. So the cable which goes to the fan, which is this white one, that literally just goes through the SSR. This is a bit dodgy, I haven't finished experimenting with this potentiometer yet. And the SSR just switches the power on and off, just like a simple circuit. And the knob here, the potentiometer, just cuts the voltage down or introduces a resistance to regulate the speed of the fan, because this fan is pretty powerful and it was too powerful without it. So it's working here, so I've got the UDS starting up, so I'm going to go and put it on and we'll see how it works. So I'm running my test today with lumpwood, because I've only got heat beads left and I don't want to use them up just for the test. And lumpwood, I'm pretty sure, is going to be harder for the thing to control than briquettes would be, especially heat beads. So seems like a good way of testing it is to use some lumpwood. So I've got the silver probe, which is the probe from the controller, and then the other probe is from the eye grill. I'm going to use the eye grill to do a graph to see how well the controller works, but also the eye grill will confirm how accurate, or at least how accurate it is compared to the eye grill. So the baffle's in, which is a big cast iron manhole cover. So I can put the lid on now and open up all the little nipples and the valves. Can we do that? Open the valves and take the caps off the nipples and wait for it to get up to temperature before I turn the controller on. So I've got a spare phone sitting in the house with the drum out there, and the controller is currently not connected because it's heating up. And I don't think it's a good idea to blow air into the coals when you're first heating it, because it'll overshoot massively. So I'm letting it get to its final temperature naturally, which will be 235 Fahrenheit. And then I'll close the bottom vents off and I'll put the controller on and let it take over. Okay, so we're up to 223F. I don't know if the phone can even see that, it's flashing on the screen, but anyway, it says 223F. And I've started to cap off the brass nipples. The only air that we've got in now are these two valve stacks here. So it started on the graph on the eye grill, it's really started to level off, so I think now is a good time to put the fan on. So the way I've got the fan mounting, actually hold on, the wires are a bit tangled, let me untangle them. Okay, so the way the fan mounts is, this is a 3/4 inch nipple, and it just goes like that, and it just squishes on. I'm going to shut this now. So the only air currently going into the smoker is through that fan, and the control will start doing something. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so the fan has stopped, so it's just sitting there. So the fire will still be drawing air naturally, but it will be coming through the fan, which will be restricted compared to how it is when the fan's running, because you obviously want the fire to still be able to breathe while it's cooling down, or you might just suffocate it. So the fan is allowing air through it, it's just not pumping it through. And the controller is showing 235.3. So the graph is showing where I put all the caps back on, this flat bit, and then where I put the controller on, the ramp. So as you can see, it's really levelling off at 235. It's a perfect smooth curve with no overshoots. So it's doing a really good job at the moment. So while the drum is running, I need to clean my centre feed, because I'm cooking on this at the weekend. I've not used it for a while, and it is filthy. So this is going to need quite a clean, at least on the outside. It's really dusty. So the controller has finished doing its auto tune. So now it is actually controlling it properly rather than experimenting. So this wiggly line shows exactly what the controller was doing. Now the highest, I set it for 235, During the auto tune, the highest it got was maybe what, 238. The lowest it got was 229 or so. So anyway, you can see what it did there to learn those humps. It pumps air in and it sees how much the temperature increases by, and then it doesn't pump air in and it measures how much it decreases by, and it does it a couple of times, and it works out exactly how much air it needs to put in to get the result it wants. You don't have to do this every time, but this is the first time I've used this fan, and it's the first time I've used lumpwood, so it makes sense to auto tune it again. It takes about half an hour or so, and it's automatic. Once it's done, it turns the auto tune mode off, and it just carries on. So you can press the auto tune button, walk away and leave it, and once it's done auto tuning, it will just cook as normal. So now it's actually started to hold temperature properly rather than experiment. So we will leave it and we'll see how this graph develops over time. So yeah, it's interesting. So you can see the fan is turning on and off. It's so quiet, this fan, compared to the other one. It's turning on and off in a weird pattern, and that is the PID loop constantly monitoring the temperature and making decisions about whether it should add air or restrict air. So it's just twitching on and off in a really random pattern, but it knows exactly what it's doing. So I just had to go out for an hour or so, come back, and the drum is still holding really well. This line is wiggly, but the resolution of the graph up the side, there's a bit of dirt on the screen, it's holding within maybe 3 or 4 degrees either side of 235. Right now it's on 235. So we lit it about 1, so it's now 2:30, so it's been going an hour and a half, so still fairly early on, but we'll let it keep going. Looks good so far. So it is now 6 o'clock and the drum has been running since 1 PM. The graph shows that at 1 PM it hit its 235F cooking temperature. So the fan's running right now, as you can see, and the graph, so you can see, how do we do this? That was when I lit the fire. These wibbles here is when the controller was tuning, and then you can see this is hard to do with one hand. You can sort of do a pinch zoom thing. You can see that it's evened out. So even though that's wiggling up and down, there's 230 here and 240 here. So this mark to this mark is only 10 degrees. So even when it's the lowest point is only 233, and the highest point is only 236 by the looks of it. So it's holding within a couple of degrees. And this is with charcoal. It is midnight, and the drum's still going. This is 12 hours since I lit it, about 11 hours since it's been up to temperature. The graph, I've been out, so I came back and the graph has been plotting. So on the side here we've got 235, 230, 240, so the line is stuck to the 235 with, the lowest it gets is 233 possibly, something like that. So it's been working really well. I don't know how much fuel is left in it. I've put about 4 or 5 kilos of lumpwood in. I would guess it's probably got another 3 or 4 hours before it starts to die. The graph, in the morning when I come down, the graph will tell me when it died. So that's great. Oh, one thing I was interested to see, when I run this drum naturally, just without the forced draft, when the sun goes down and it gets cold, the temperature drops on the drum and you have to start opening vents to get it back up again. This, the sun probably went down about 9 o'clock, and on the graph, maybe later, maybe 10 o'clock, but on the graph there's no change. So as the sun went down and as it got cold, the system compensated for it and it didn't even change. So that's really impressive. So I'm pretty pleased with how it's all turned out. There it is down there in the case. I haven't even opened the case since this morning, since I started it off. So yeah, very happy. So I'll call that a success.